She scrubbed Billionaire floors every night. Invisible. Ignored. Underestimated. But what no one knew. The quiet cleaner pushing that mop was once the daughter of a man richer than the empire she now worked beneath. And the ruthless billionaire watching her from the shadows? He thought he owned everything in this building. Until he discovered she wasn't cleaning by accident. She was hiding. And when he uncovers her secret, power will shift. Empires will tremble. And one forbidden attraction will change them both forever. Because she was never just a cleaner. She was a storm in disguise. And the billionaire boss? He's about to fall for the one woman who refuses to bow. 4 to 7 floors of steel and power. Inside, the marble lobby gleamed like a palace, cold, flawless, untouchable. And at 11:38 p.m., the only sound in that palace was the soft glide of a mop across stone. Amara Cole moved with quiet precision. Gray uniform. Hair tied back. Head lowered. Invisible. Executives had passed her hours ago without seeing her face. Some barely stepped aside when she cleaned around their shoes. One had spilled coffee and muttered, "That's what they are paid for." She didn't react. She never reacted. Because Amara Cole had learned something powerful a long time ago. Silence protects you. Pride exposes you. The security camera above rotated slowly. She knew its angle. She knew every blind spot in the building. Not because she planned to steal, but because she had grown up in rooms far grander than this one. Rooms where her father once stood at the center of innovation headlines. Rooms where investors applauded. Rooms that vanished overnight. 10 years ago, the name Amara Cole dominated tech news. Then it dominated scandal. Fraud. Betrayal. Collapse. By morning, their homes were seized. Accounts frozen. Friends disappeared. And at 19 years old, Amara learned how quickly the world abandons the powerful. Now, at 26, she preferred being underestimated. Underestimation was freedom. She finished the lobby and wheeled her cart toward the executive elevators. The night guard barely looked up from his phone. "Penthouse level?" he asked lazily. She nodded. The elevator doors closed with a whisper. As it rose, her reflection stared back at her in the mirrored walls. Not defeated. Not broken. Waiting. The doors opened into a corridor lined with art worth more than most people's houses. She inhaled once, steadying herself. The executive floor belonged to one man. Damien Blackwood. The youngest billionaire CEO in the country. Brilliant. Ruthless. Untouchable. She had researched him the first week she was hired. Not obsessively. Strategically. His company had acquired several of her father's abandoned patents after the scandal. Cheap. Quietly. Legally. But she knew the difference between legal and ethical. She pushed her cart toward his office. The door was slightly open. Light spilled across the dark hallway. He was still there. Through the glass wall, she saw him, jacket off, sleeves rolled, standing at the window overlooking the city. Power radiated from him without effort. Most men chased authority. He wore it like a second skin. For a brief second. He turned. And their eyes met through the glass. Not long. Not dramatic. But something paused in the air. Most billionaires never noticed the cleaner. Damien Blackwood did. Amara immediately lowered her gaze and entered only after knocking lightly. "I'll be quick, sir," she said calmly. Her voice carried soft refinement. Not the tone of someone who grew up struggling. He didn't respond at first. She began cleaning. Desk edges. Bookshelves. Glass table. Precise. Efficient. Yet she felt it. His attention. Heavy. Assessing. "You don't look at people when you speak to them," he finally said. Her hand paused on the cloth for half a second. "I try not to disturb them," she replied. A quiet answer. A careful one. He stepped closer. "Or are you trying not to be remembered?" That made her look up. Just slightly. Their eyes locked properly this time. His were sharp. Calculating. Hers was steady. Unapologetic. "I'm just here to do my job," she said. Something flickered across his face. Interest. Not desire. Not yet. Curiosity. No one spoke to him without either fear or flattery. She offered neither. When she finished, she moved toward the door. But just before she stepped out, Damien spoke again. "What's your name?" She hesitated. Just enough. "Amara." He watched her carefully. "Amara what?" "A beat. Cole." If the name meant anything to him, he didn't show it. "Good night, Amara Cole. The way he said her name felt deliberate. She exited calmly. But once the elevator doors closed, her composure cracked for half a second, because she hadn't planned for him to notice her this soon. And upstairs, in the quiet of his office, Damien stood still. He didn't know why. But the cleaner with the steady eyes and polished voice did not belong pushing a mop. He felt it instinctively, and Damien Blackwood trusted his instincts. By morning, he would have a file on his desk, and Amara Cole's carefully constructed invisibility would begin to unravel. Damien Blackwood did not believe in distractions.
Thank you, sir.
He believed in leverage, in timing, in control. And yet, for 3 consecutive nights, he found himself delaying meetings just to remain in the building after 11:30 p.m. Just to see if she would come. The cleaner with the steady eyes, Amara Cole. On the 4th night, he made sure the hallway cameras were under routine maintenance review. No alerts. No unnecessary staff. He told himself it was about security. It wasn't. At 11:37 p.m., the elevator doors opened. She stepped out, pushing her cat, posture straight, movements economical. No headphones. No idle scrolling. No fatigue in her face. She worked like someone trained to focus. Damien watched from inside his office, lights dimmed. She didn't rush. Didn't snoop. Didn't take photos like others before her had tried to do. She cleaned like someone who respected space. That intrigued him more than anything. He stepped out deliberately this time. Her back stiffened slightly, but she didn't turn. "You're here every night," he said. "Yes, sir." Her tone was even. "You've never called in sick?" "No." He circled slowly, like a strategist assessing a board. "Most people don't last long on this shift." "I'm not most people." The answer slipped out before she could soften it. He stopped walking. Silence expanded between them. "You speak like someone who's used to being heard," he said quietly. Her hand tightened on the mop handle. "I speak clearly, sir. That's all." He studied her profile. Her diction was polished. Her posture disciplined. Her composure too controlled for someone in her position. "You ever worked corporate before?" he asked. She shook her head once. "No." Lie. He could almost see it forming in the air between them. But what fascinated him wasn't the lie. It was how calmly she delivered it. Most liars blinked too much. Shifted weight. Over-explained. She did none of those things. She simply returned to wiping the glass wall. The city lights reflected across it like fractured stars. "You don't look at me," he said. She paused. Then, slowly, she lifted her gaze. Direct. Unflinching. It hit him harder than expected. There was no fear in her eyes. No admiration either. Just assessment. Like she was measuring him. Damien Blackwood was not accustomed to being measured. "Now I am," she replied softly. The air shifted. Something electric. Subtle. Dangerous. He stepped closer. Close enough to notice a scent. Faint jasmine, clean and understated. Not perfume trying to impress. Natural. "You're overqualified for this job," he said bluntly. Her lips curved faintly. Overqualified for cleaning. For hiding. That landed. Her eyes flickered for half a second. There. He saw it. A wall. "Well," she said, lowering her gaze again, "some of us prefer being underestimated." "And why is that?" "Because expectations are expensive." He didn't fully understand the weight behind that sentence. But he felt it. And Damien trusted feelings the way others trusted spreadsheets. They were data. Raw, honest data. "Look at me again," he said quietly. It wasn't a command. But it sounded like one. She did. And this time, the silence stretched longer. Not hostile. Not romantic. But charged. 2 minds calculating. 2 secrets coiling tighter. He had dealt with gold diggers. Social climbers. Corporate sharks disguised as allies. But this woman? She avoided attention like it was dangerous. That told him one thing. She had something to lose. "Where did you go to school?" he asked again. Her eyes didn't move. "Community college." The lie was smoother this time. "Practiced." He nodded once. "Interesting." "Why is that?" "Because you debate like someone trained in private institutions." Her breath slowed slightly. He noticed. "Good night, Mr. Blackwood," she said, ending the conversation before it deepened further. Smart move. She wheeled her cart toward the elevator. He didn't stop her, but he watched her until the doors closed. And when they did, he didn't return to work. Instead, he walked back into his office and pressed a button on his desk phone. Security. Yes, sir. I want the full employment file on Amara Cole. Cleaner. Night shift. A pause. Is there an issue? Yes, Damien replied calmly. There is. He hung up. Across town, in a small apartment she chose deliberately far from luxury districts, Amara removed her uniform carefully. She checked her email. 3 encrypted messages. All unanswered. All from old investors asking quiet questions about the resurfacing of coal patents under Blackwood acquisitions. Her jaw tightened. She hadn't expected Damien Blackwood to notice her this soon. She had planned to observe. To learn. To wait. Now, he was observing her. And that complicated everything. Back in the penthouse office, Damien stood at the window again. The rain had stopped. The city shimmered. He replayed every word she'd said. Every pause. Every controlled expression. He didn't feel lust. He felt intrigue. And intrigue was far more dangerous. Because Damien Blackwood only chased 2 things in life. Power. And rare opportunities. And something told him. Amara Cole was both. By morning, her carefully buried name would surface again. And once Damien Blackwood started digging, he never stopped. At exactly 7 a.m., a sealed folder sat at the center of Damien Blackwood's desk. He hadn't touched it yet. He preferred to anticipate information before consuming it. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, the city moved like clockwork. Markets opening. Traffic building. Empires negotiating. Inside his office. Stillness. He finally opened the file. Amara Cole. Age, 26. Employment, night sanitation staff. Residence, modest apartment. Leased under personal name. Debt, none. Criminal record, none. He turned the page. And then, he stilled. Father, Elias Cole. For a brief second, the name felt like an echo from another era. A decade ago, Elias Cole had been everywhere. Tech conferences. Financial magazines. Innovation summits. A rival visionary. And then, overnight. Fraud allegations. Investor lawsuits. Asset seizures. Collapse. Damien leaned back slowly. He remembered that scandal clearly. Because Blackwood Global had acquired 3 of Cole Industries' abandoned patents months after the bankruptcy. At a fraction of their value. Legal. Efficient. Strategic. But now, the daughter of that fallen empire was cleaning his floors. Coincidence? No. Damien didn't build billion-dollar acquisitions on coincidence. He flipped further. Education history had large gaps. But there it was. Buried in archived innovation records. Amara Cole, junior co-developer, neural interface compression model. He narrowed his eyes. She would have been 19. 19. He opened his laptop and searched deeper through internal archives. And there it was. An old Innovation Summit recording. Elias Cole on stage. Beside him, a younger Amara, poised, sharp, explaining algorithm optimization with calm precision. The audience had applauded her. Not politely. Impressed. Damien paused the video. Zoomed in. Same eyes. Same composure. Same restraint. Except now she wore a cleaner's uniform. He felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Not guilt. Not pity. Recognition. She hadn't fallen. She had stepped out of sight. That was different. He pressed his desk intercom. Cancel my 10 a.m. Yes, sir. And send me acquisition records from the Cole bankruptcy. Every bid. Every competitor. There was a pause on the other end. Yes, sir. He ended the call. His mind was already moving ahead. If she was here intentionally. Why? Revenge? Surveillance? Opportunity? Or something even smarter? That night, Amara sensed the shift the moment she stepped off the elevator. The executive floor felt aware. She entered his office. He was waiting. No laptop open. No phone in hand. Just watching her. You knew, she said quietly. He didn't pretend confusion. Yes. She set her cart aside slowly. The silence between them wasn't accidental anymore. It was deliberate. You ran a background check, she continued. I always do. And I don't believe in accidents. Her expression remained steady. But inside, her pulse had accelerated. She had planned to remain invisible longer. Long enough to observe Blackwood's patent acquisitions. Long enough to confirm what she suspected. That someone inside his corporation had manipulated the collapse of coal industries years ago. She didn't believe Damien orchestrated it. But someone had benefited. And she needed proof. "You're Elias Cole's daughter," he said calmly. "Yes." No denial. No flinch. "Why are you here, Amara?" He stepped closer. Not aggressively. Curiously. She met his gaze fully this time. "Because there was no point hiding now. My father didn't commit fraud." "That's not what the courts decided." "The courts follow paperwork. Not truth." That made him pause. "You're investigating me," he said. "No," she replied evenly. "I'm investigating what happened to my family." A charged silence followed. "If I wanted to destroy your company," she continued softly, "I wouldn't do it with a mop." His lips almost curved. "Almost. I never thought you would." That answer surprised her. "You don't seem angry," she observed. "I'm not." "Why?" "Because if someone took my empire from me, I'd come back smarter too." The air shifted. Recognition met recognition. Two predators. Two survivors. "Did you know," Damien continued, voice lower now, "your name is on 3 neural compression patents my company acquired?" Her jaw tightened slightly. "Yes. They are brilliant." She hadn't expected that. "Thank you." "You were 19. I was raised in boardrooms." He studied her closely. "You don't want the money." "No." "You don't want revenge." She hesitated. "I want the truth." And there it was. Not greed. Not bitterness. Purpose. Damien walked to his desk and slid another file toward her. "Take a look." She opened it. Internal bidding records from 10 years ago. Highlighted sections. Anonymous shell corporations. Unusual asset timing. Accelerated liquidation requests. Her breath slowed. "You didn't do this," she said quietly. "No." "But someone inside your network benefited." "Yes." He stepped closer again. "And I don't like being used." Their proximity was no longer accidental. The tension wasn't romantic yet. It was alliance forming. "Work with me," he said. She looked up slowly. "Why?" "Because if someone manipulated my acquisitions, I want them exposed. And if it leads to your board, then my board falls." She searched his face for hesitation. There was none. "You'd risk that." He held her gaze. "I don't protect corruption. I eliminate it." Her pulse betrayed her composure this time. Not from fear. From respect. She hadn't expected integrity. "Why help me?" she asked softly. His voice lowered. "Because someone tried to rewrite your story." A beat. "And I don't like unfinished narratives." Silence. Heavy. Electric. This wasn't employer and cleaner anymore. This was 2 heirs of power standing at the edge of something dangerous. She closed the file gently. "If we do this," she said, "we do it quietly." He nodded. "Agreed. And no one knows who I am. For now." Their eyes locked again. And this time, there was something new beneath the strategy. Admiration. Not loud. Not spoken. But undeniable. She stepped back toward her cat. "So what happens now?" she asked. Damien's gaze darkened slightly. "Now," he said calmly, "we start digging." And neither of them realized. The deeper they dug into the past, the closer they would be pulled into each other. The penthouse was never used for business. That was intentional. It was Damien Blackwood's private sanctuary. Above the board, above investors, above scrutiny. Floor-to-ceiling glass wrapped around the skyline. The city lights glittered below like a kingdom at his feet. And tonight, Amara Cole stood inside it. Not as a cleaner. Not as an employee. But as the only person in the building who knew the empire might be compromised from within. She stepped away from the elevator slowly. "You're aware this is inappropriate," she said calmly. Damien stood near the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled. "It's private," he replied. "That's what makes it inappropriate." A flicker of approval passed through his eyes. She wasn't intimidated by luxury. That intrigued him more than anything. On the marble table between them sat documents. Old acquisition trails. Shell company registrations. Board voting records. She approached and began scanning them. Her mind shifted instantly into analytical mode. Focused. Sharp. Damien watched the transformation closely. This was not the woman who lowered her eyes while cleaning. This was the woman from the Innovation Summit video. Confident. Precise. Unapologetically brilliant. "You've been quiet," she said without looking up. "I prefer to observe before I speak. That can be dangerous. Only if you're hiding something." She finally looked at him. Their proximity felt different up here. More intimate. No fluorescent office lights. No corporate masks. Just two people standing at the edge of buried truth. "You think I came here to sabotage you," she said. "I think you came here for answers. And if those answers destroy your board, then they deserve to fall." The certainty in his voice unsettled her. Not because it sounded ruthless, but because it sounded honest. She placed the file down. "You built this company on discipline," she said. "You don't tolerate weakness." "Correct. Then why tolerate me?" He stepped closer. Slow. Measured. "You mistake tolerance for recognition." Her breath slowed. Recognition of what? Of someone who refuses to beg. Silence stretched. The air between them was no longer just strategic tension. It was awareness. She had spent years being underestimated. But this man. He saw her. Fully. "You're not afraid of me," he said quietly. "No." "Why?" She held his gaze steadily. "Because power doesn't impress me." "And what does?" "Integrity." That word landed harder than any accusation. Damien wasn't used to defending his character. But for the first time in years, he cared how someone saw him. He walked past her toward the bar, pouring 2 glasses of water. He handed her one. Their fingers brushed. Not accidental. A spark traveled up both their arms. Neither reacted outwardly. But the atmosphere shifted. "You know what people say about me?" he asked. "That you're ruthless. And that you don't let anyone close." His jaw tightened faintly. "And you?" he asked. "What do they say about you?" She exhaled slowly. "That my family was greedy. That we deserved what happened." A quiet ache filled the room. For a moment, neither billionaire nor heiress stood there. Just two people shaped by public judgment. "You don't believe that," he said. "No." "Why?" "Because I was there." Her voice softened for the first time. "I watched my father sign papers he didn't fully trust. I watched him realize too late he'd been cornered." Damien studied her expression carefully. There was no bitterness. Only memory. "You still defend him," he observed. "Yes." "Even after the world walked away." She met his eyes again. "Especially after." Something inside him shifted. Respect deepened into something warmer. More dangerous. "You're loyal," he said. "I'm careful." He stepped closer again. Close enough now that the city lights reflected in both their eyes. "And what are you being careful about right now?" he asked. The question wasn't about business anymore. She knew it. He knew it. She swallowed once, controlled. "You." The honesty surprised even her. A flicker of something dark and intense crossed his expression. "Why?" "Because powerful men don't help women like me without expecting something." "And what do you think I expect?" Her heartbeat accelerated. But she didn't step back. "That's what I'm trying to determine." The silence that followed was thick. Not threatening. Not safe either. He reached up slowly. Not to grab her. Not to dominate. But to gently lift her chin. The gesture was restrained. Deliberate. "You're not beneath me," he said quietly. "And you're not a charity case." His thumb brushed lightly against her jawline before he let go. "You're an equal standing in my penthouse because I chose to trust you." The word trust lingered in the air. She stepped back first. Not out of fear. Out of awareness. "We should focus," she said, regaining composure. "If someone inside your board engineered the bankruptcy, they'll notice us digging." "They won't," he replied calmly. "Why?" "Because I won't dig publicly." A pause. "I'll dig from the inside." Her eyes sharpened. "And I'll need you beside me." The meaning was layered. Professional. Personal. Potentially dangerous. "You realize," she said softly, "this changes things." "Yes. Including how people see us." "I don't care." She studied him carefully. That's a luxury I don't have. He moved closer one final time. Lowered his voice. Then I'll handle the world. A dangerous promise. For a moment, she almost let herself lean into it. Almost let herself believe someone that powerful would shield her without strings attached. But she had learned the cost of comfort. So instead, she picked up the file. We start with the shell corporations, she said. Back to strategy. Back to control. He watched her shift. And admired it. Because beneath the tension, beneath the attraction quietly building like heat under glass, he saw something rare. A woman who did not need him, but might choose him. And that possibility? It was far more intoxicating than conquest. As she walked toward the elevator, he spoke once more. Amara. She turned slightly. If someone did this to your family, he said, voice steady but intense, I will find them. Not as a CEO. As a man. Her eyes softened briefly. Be careful, Damien. It was the first time she'd said his name. It landed differently. And as the elevator doors closed between them, both understood something had shifted. They weren't just investigating a conspiracy anymore. They were stepping into each other's guarded worlds. And once you enter someone's private sanctuary, you either leave untouched, or you never leave the same. By Monday morning, the cleaner was gone. In her place, Amara Cole walked through the front doors of Blackwood Global Holdings in a tailored ivory blouse and charcoal pencil skirt. Heads turned, not because she was loud, but because she moved like she belonged. Whispers followed her to the executive elevator. Who is she? New consultant. She came out of the CEO's private lift. Inside the boardroom, 12 executives sat waiting. Damien stood at the head of the table. Calm. Controlled. Watching the door. When it opened and Amara stepped in, the room shifted. Confusion. Mild irritation. Curiosity. Good morning, Damien said evenly. This is Amara Cole. She'll be joining us as executive strategy consultant. A board member frowned. I don't recall approving. You don't need to, Damien interrupted smoothly. Silence. Amara felt the weight of every stare. Judging her age. Her background. Her sudden elevation. Underestimate me. The thought steadied her pulse. Damien gestured to the screen. Amara has identified inefficiencies in our patent integration cycle. She stepped forward, remote in hand. No tremor. No hesitation. The presentation began. Within minutes, skepticism turned into stillness. She dismantled outdated structures with precision. Highlighted revenue leaks no one had noticed. Proposed restructuring that would increase profit margins by 18% within a year. By the time she finished, no one interrupted. No one challenged. Because they couldn't. Damien watched not with pride, but with vindication. He hadn't misjudged her. When the meeting ended, the board exited in controlled silence. One older director lingered. Where did you find her? He asked quietly. Damien didn't blink. She found me. And for the first time, that answer was true. Later that evening, the building was quiet again. But this time, Amara wasn't pushing a cart. She stood in Damien's office reviewing financial flowcharts projected across the glass wall. You moved fast, she said without turning. You don't waste talent, he replied. She glanced at him. Or you don't like anyone else discovering it first. A faint smirk. Both. She crossed her arms. You realize this makes me visible? Yes. That wasn't the plan. No, he agreed. It wasn't. The tension in the room had changed. Less guarded. More charged. Working side by side had stripped away formality. They debated openly now. Challenged each other. Finished each other's strategic projections. Intellectual chemistry. And something beneath it. You didn't answer my question, she said softly. What question? Why give me this position? He walked closer. Not invading. Just close enough that she could feel his presence. Because brilliance shouldn't hide behind a mop. Her breath caught slightly. That's not a strategic answer. No, he admitted. It isn't. Silence expanded. The skyline outside glowed in deep blue twilight. You could have used my name against me, she said quietly. You could have exposed me the first night. I don't destroy things that interest me. Her pulse skipped. And I interest you. He held her gaze steadily. Yes. The honesty hung heavy. Not flirtation. Not game playing. Direct. Dangerous. She stepped back toward the desk, trying to steady the sudden warmth spreading through her chest. We should stay focused. Are we losing focus? He asked softly. She met his eyes again. Not yet. The air between them felt thinner. He reached past her to adjust the projected model. His arm brushed lightly against hers. Electric. Neither moved immediately. Neither apologized. You're different up here, he murmured. So are you. How? You listen. That surprised him. People assume I don't. People assume many things, she replied. Their eyes locked again. Closer now. Too close for comfort. Too close for neutrality. A knock at the door broke the moment. Both stepped apart instantly. A junior analyst entered with additional files. The interruption felt abrupt. Necessary. Dangerous. When the door closed again, the air remained charged. This is why boundaries matter, she said quietly. And if I don't want boundaries? Her heart beat harder. You always want control. And you? He countered. I want clarity. He stepped closer again. Then let me be clear. His voice lowered. You're not here because of charity. You're here because you're exceptional. A beat. And because I trust you. Trust. The word disarmed her more than attraction ever could. No one had trusted a Cole in 10 years. You don't even know me fully, she whispered. I know enough. His hand lifted, paused near her waist, then stopped. Deliberate restraint. I don't rush things that matter. The restraint made it worse. More intense. She exhaled slowly. You're playing a dangerous game. I don't play games. No, she agreed softly. You conquer them. Their proximity felt inevitable now. The city lights reflecting in her eyes. His gaze lowering slightly, then lifting again. Control battling desire. Finally, she stepped back first. We have a board member to investigate, she said firmly. He held her gaze for another second, then nodded. Yes, we do. But as she gathered the files, both knew something undeniable had shifted. This wasn't just alliance anymore. It wasn't even curiosity. It was recognition. Two people who had built armor around themselves, beginning to wonder what it would feel like to set it down. And neither of them was prepared for how quickly that vulnerability could become explosive. As Amara exited his office, whispers were already spreading through executive floors. The CEO's new strategist. The mysterious hire. The woman he defended without hesitation. Somewhere in the board's inner circle. Someone noticed. And someone felt threatened. Because power doesn't just attract loyalty. It attracts enemies. And the closer Amara stood to Damien, the more dangerous her position became. Absolutely. Now we let everything tighten.
So right.
Pressure from the board, rumors spreading, emotions rising, and the first moment neither of them can step back
right.
from. This is the turning point. Chapter 6, The Fire Between Power. The rumors started quietly. They always did. She was a cleaner. She's sleeping her way up. No one gets that close to Blackwood without leverage. Amara heard them. She pretended she didn't. But whispers travel faster than facts in corporate hallways. By Thursday afternoon, a financial blog published an anonymous tip. Mystery woman influencing Blackwood executive decisions. No name. But enough detail to sting. Damien read it in silence. Then closed his laptop. Find the source, he told his head of security. Yes, sir. Across the building, Amara stood in the strategy office reviewing data when the first investor email arrived. Polite. Concerned. Questioning her credentials. Her jaw tightened. She had expected resistance. She hadn't expected it this quickly. The door opened. Damien entered. No announcement. No knock. I'll handle it, he said. She didn't look up immediately. You shouldn't have to. I don't mind. That's the problem. She turned then. If you silence this, it proves them right. His expression hardened. They're attacking you. They are testing you, she corrected. Silence. She stepped closer. You can't protect me from everything, Damien. His voice lowered. I can try. That was the first crack. Not in the company. In him. Before she could respond, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the entire floor went dark. Emergency lighting glowed faint red along the walls. The city skyline outside disappeared into sudden blackness. A citywide power failure. The building generators hummed uncertainly, then cut out. Complete darkness. For a moment, there was only breathing. Close. Too close. Amara felt for the edge of the desk. Her hand brushed his chest instead. Solid. Warm. Steady heartbeat beneath her palm. Neither moved. Are you afraid of the dark? He asked quietly. No. Good. Because his voice had changed. Lower. Closer. More personal than professional. The emergency lights outside the windows flickered faintly back to life, casting dim blue across the room. Just enough to see shapes. Just enough to see him standing inches away. The darkness stripped away titles. No CEO. No strategist. Just a man and a woman who had been circling something inevitable. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I own the building. That's not what I meant. He stepped closer. Close enough that her back brushed the desk. You think I don't know what they are saying? He asked softly. I don't care what they say about me. I do. The admission hung between them. Her breath caught. Why? His hand moved, slowly, bracing against the desk beside her, not touching her yet. Because they are trying to reduce you to something small. And you are anything but small. The dim light traced the sharp lines of his face. Controlled. Intense. Her pulse was no longer steady. You can't fight every rumor with force, she said softly. No. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes. But I can fight for you. The air shifted. That word. For. Not over. Not instead of. For. You don't even know what this is, she whispered. Yes, I do. His hand finally touched her waist. Not possessive. Not rushed. Testing. Giving her space to step away. She didn't. The world outside was dark. Silent. Like time had paused for just this moment. You said you wanted clarity, he murmured. Her breath trembled slightly. I do. This is clarity. And then, he kissed her. Not aggressively. Not recklessly. Slow. Intentional. Like he had been holding back for weeks and finally allowed himself to cross the line. Her fingers gripped his jacket. For half a second, she froze. Then she responded. The kiss deepened, not wild, but consuming. Two controlled people surrendering to something they could no longer strategize. When they finally pulled apart, the room felt smaller, warmer, more dangerous. That changes everything, she breathed. Yes. No more plausible deniability. I don't want it. She searched his face. There was no regret. Only certainty. You realize they'll come harder now, she said. Let them. This could cost you. He leaned his forehead gently against hers. Then it costs me. The backup generators suddenly roared back to life. Lights flooded the room. Reality returned. They stepped apart instinctively. Professional distance restored. But nothing was the same. Her lips were still warm. His pulse still elevated. A knock sounded at the door. Security. Power restored, sir. We're investigating the outage. Do that, Damien replied calmly. When the door closed again, he looked at her. We find out who leaked the story. She nodded. And we expose whoever buried your father. The alliance was no longer just strategic. It was personal. And somewhere inside the board's private communication channels, a message was being typed. Escalate pressure. The girl is closer than expected. Because power always resists exposure. And now, Damien Blackwood wasn't just protecting a strategist. He was standing beside a woman the wrong people had tried to erase. And they had just made their relationship undeniable. The next attack wouldn't be subtle. It would be calculated, public, and ruthless. Absolutely. Let's complete this properly. Emotional closure, romantic depth, and a final declaration that feels powerful, intimate, and earned. We continue from. In the penthouse, the tension felt different. Not uncertain. Not forbidden. Earned. Amara stood by the window, the city glittering beneath her like scattered diamonds. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. Yes, Damien replied, stepping behind her. I did. She turned slowly. You risked shareholder confidence. Media volatility. Board instability. I risked none of it, he said calmly. She frowned slightly. He stepped closer. I removed instability. A small breath escaped her, almost a laugh. Is that what I am to you? A strategic correction. His expression changed. Softened. No. He reached for her hand. You are the only person who has ever walked into my empire and made me question whether I built it alone for the wrong reasons. Her pulse slowed. What reasons? Control, he said honestly. Proving I could win. Being untouchable. And now? He stepped closer. Now I want something different. The air between them was warm, steady, no longer charged with uncertainty, but certainty. I didn't restore your father's name because I felt obligated, he continued. I did it because it was right. A pause. And because no one should have to fight alone when they shouldn't have fallen in the first place. Her throat tightened slightly. For 10 years, she said quietly, I thought the only way to survive was to shrink. To disappear. To rebuild quietly. He lifted his hand gently to her face. And now? She searched his eyes. I don't want to disappear anymore. That was the real victory. Not the board removal. Not the headlines. Not the financial restitution. Visibility. Ownership. Choice. He brushed his thumb softly along her cheek. You were never small, Amara. Her breath hitched slightly at the way he said her name. And you, she whispered, were never as cold as you pretend. He gave a faint, rare smile. I don't pretend with you. Silence wrapped around them. Intimate, steady. The city below hummed, unaware that two empires had just shifted permanently. I need to know something, she said softly. Anything. If the board turns on you again, if investors panic, if this costs you. It won't. But if it does, she insisted, would you resent me? His answer came without hesitation. No. Why? Because I chose this. He stepped even closer, his forehead resting lightly against hers. I don't do accidents, Amara. I don't do impulse. His voice lowered. I chose you. The words landed deeper than any grand gesture. Not obsession. Not possession. Choice. She exhaled slowly, the last of her guarded restraint dissolving. For someone who doesn't rush things, she murmured, you've changed my entire life in a month. He smiled faintly. You changed mine the first night you refused to look at me. That made her laugh softly, warm, genuine. You noticed that? I notice everything. His hand slid to her waist, slow and certain. And you still stayed, she said. Yes. Why? Because I recognized you. A beat. Power recognizes power. But this time, there was no challenge in it. Only admiration. He kissed her again, deeper than before, but unhurried. No darkness. No secrecy. No fear of exposure. Just two people who had fought through suspicion, strategy, and scandal, and chosen each other at the end of it. When they parted, she rested her head lightly against his chest. For the first time in 10 years, she felt safe without feeling small. 6 months later, Blackwood Global Holdings announced a restructuring. Not a merger. Not an acquisition. A partnership. Cole Innovation Division, led by Amara Cole, Chief Strategy and Technology Officer. Headlines shifted tone. From scandal to strategy, the return of the Cole legacy. Power couple redefines corporate leadership. But inside the executive office, none of that mattered. Amara stood reviewing a new product launch timeline. Damien watched her from across the room. You're staring, she said without looking up. Yes. Why? Because you don't realize what you've built. She looked at him. What we built. He crossed the room slowly. Equal, he corrected gently. Always equal. The office door closed softly behind him. No secrecy. Just privacy. You know, she said thoughtfully, if someone told me a year ago that I'd be standing here. You would have laughed. I would have walked away. He stepped closer. And now? She met his gaze fully. Now I stay. Not because she needed protection. Not because she needed restoration. But because she wanted partnership. He lifted her hand and pressed a slow kiss against her knuckles, not dramatic, not theatrical. Intentional. We're not finished, he said quietly. With what? Building. Her eyes warmed. Good. She stepped closer, resting her hands lightly against his chest. Because neither am I. Outside the windows, the city stretched endlessly, not as something to conquer, but something to shape. Together. She was never just a cleaner. He was never just a billionaire. And the empire they built wasn't founded on control. It was founded on recognition, respect, truth, and a love that began the moment a powerful man noticed the woman everyone else overlooked.